Hay que aceptar la grabación, ¿no? Hello, good evening in China and good morning in Argentina. Thank you for joining us today. Welcome to our fifth and final joint webinar on food research and technology. The topic of this webinar is new technologies in the food sector. These webinars are part of the collaboration project on food research and technology between the engineering academies of China and Argentina. I am Dr. Noemi Zaritsky, full member of the National Academy of Engineering in Argentina, and together with the president of the Argentine Academy, Engineer Oscar Viñar, we are leading this project, this joint project in Argentina. Engineer Viñar, the president of our academy, is the one who introduced these webinars. However, since he is currently in Spain, I will deliver these introductory remarks. The project between the engineering academies of China and Argentina involves research, development, and cooperation on food science, technology, and engineering between both countries, with the participation of research groups from universities, public institutions, and also companies with a large trajectory that produce and export food. The objective of the project are to strengthen academic, scientific, and technological links between both academies on topics related to food science, technology, and engineering in order to create a leading edge in the development of food resources and technological strength in the field of food. The goals are to achieve scientific and public impact and to respond to both national needs in order to provide engineering solutions for global food security and safety within a multilateral science and rules-based trading system. These webinars have been an important platform for building connections between China and Argentina. They provided an excellent opportunity to share current advances, innovative technology, and emerging challenges in food science, technology, and engineering. Now I invite the representative of the Chinese Academy of Engineering to present the opening remarks.
Thank you. Because our Associate Dean, Professor Xie, is on the flight. The weather is very bad, so the flight is delayed and cannot catch up this meeting. And I will represent her to give a speech. Distinguished President Oscar Vignat, Dr. Noemi Zaritsky, and all experts, good morning and good evening to everyone. First of all, on behalf of School of Food Science and Technology of Jiangnan University, I'd like to extend my sincere greeting to all Chinese and acting experts and scholars attending the fifth online webinar. I also express my heartfelt gratitude to National Academy of Engineering of Argentina and the CIDCA team coordinating the whole webinar, and all Chinese and foreign researchers who have contributed to the preparation. Since last year, September, we have successfully held 4 joint online webinars, forming a well-structured and comprehensive communication framework. The first session focused on food nutrition, probiotics, prebiotics, and symbiotics. The second session centered on green food chain, discussing biodegradable packaging and the resource utilization of food waste to explore pathways for the low-carbon industrial transformation. The third session targeting food safety and quality control, and the fourth session conduct in-depth discussion on the loss reduction, risk keeping, and supply chain sustainability. The four webinars enabled thorough exchange of research ideas and industrial application cases, building a stable and efficient dialogue platform for China and academia food science and technology cooperation, and laying a solid foundation for this fifth webinar. Today, we gather for the closing session of this webinar series, focusing on the forward-looking theme of new technologies in the food sector, including artificial intelligence and nanotechnology. At present, digital technologies, intelligent manufacturing, and nanomaterials are deeply integrated with food industry. Emerging technologies such as artificial intelligence, numerical simulation, food 3D printing, and intelligent fresh quality control are reshaping the whole process of food research, acting as a co-driving force for transformation of global food industry. This webinar adopts an alternative presentation format for Chinese and academic scholars. Experts from both sides will share cutting-edge research findings on four directions: AI-enabled smart post-harvest management of fresh, precise dietary intervention targeting intestinal microbiota, finite element numerical simulation of heat transfer in food processing, and innovative 3D printing of engineered food. I look forward to open and in-depth exchange among all participants to inspire innovative ideas, identify complementary technology between our two countries, and explore cooperative opportunities for the industrial application of the artificial intelligence and advanced manufacturing technology in food science. We firmly believe this webinar focusing on cutting-edge technologies will connect the basic and applied research outcomes from the previous four sessions, forming a complete academic exchange chain covering nutritional health, reproduction, feed control, preservation, and intelligent emerging technology. It will further deepen the long-term scientific research cooperation mechanism between the two academies of engineering. Relying on our disciplinary strengths, our school will keep promoting talent exchanges, joint research programs, and achievement transformation cooperation between both sides, and work together with academic counterparts to boost high quality and sustainable development of food science and technology. Finally, I wish the fifth session of the joint online webinar a complete success. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And please, Margarita, can we see the first video of the National Academy of Engineering in Argentina? We can hear. Margarita, can you put the first from the beginning, please? The sound is okay? Welcome to our fifth and final joint webinar on food research and technology organized by the Chinese Academy of Engineering and the Argentine Academy of Engineering. Today the topic is new technologies in the food sector. Over the course of a year, the project has brought together experts from Argentina and China to exchange knowledge and share scientific advances and innovative solutions in food science and technology. This is the list of webinars we developed. The first one, food nutrition, probiotics, prebiotics, and symbiotics. The second one, green food chain, sustainable and biodegradable packaging for food and recovery of waste from the food industry, case studies. The third one, food safety and quality control. The fourth, new food preservation methods. And today we have new technologies in the food sector. These webinars have demonstrated the value of the international cooperation. They have strengthened academic and professional relationships, encouraged the exchange of ideas, and created opportunities for future collaborative research and innovation. They have also shown that despite the distance between our countries, science and engineering provide a common language for addressing global challenges related to food quality, safety, sustainability, and food security. This is the agenda for the webinar we are holding today. We have 4 presentations, 2 from Argentina and 2 from China. The first one is Smart Post-Harvest Artificial Intelligence Tools for Fresh Produce Quality and Shelf Life Prediction by Dr. Analia Coletti. The second one from China is Precise Dietary Intervention Targeting the Intestinal Microbiota by Dr. Jinlin Su. The third, Numerical Simulation of Heat Transfer in Food Processing using the Finite Element Method, From Equations to Industrial Application by Dr. Victoria Santos. And the last one is Development and Innovation of Three-Dimensional Printing Technologies for Engineered Food by Dr. Nana Zhang. It is my great pleasure to introduce the speaker from Argentina who will give their lectures today in our 5th webinar. The first speaker is Dr. Analia Cecilia Coletti. She holds a degree in food engineering and a PhD in science and technology from the National University of Quilmes. She earned an international master's degree in food technology jointly awarded by the University of Parma and the University of Buenos Aires, and a diploma of Industry 4.0 and Enabled Technologies from the National University of San Martin. She serves as adjunct professor at the National University of Hurlingham and as a permanent researcher at the Food Technology Institute of the National Institute of Agricultural Technology, where her work focuses on Food 4.0. Her current research interests include three-dimensional food printing for the development of functional foods and the application of machine learning and deep learning models to automate and predict post-harvest quality in fruit and vegetables. Our second speaker from Argentina is Dr. María Victoria Santos. She's a researcher at the National Scientific and Technical Research Council, CONICET, at INIBIOMA in the city of Bariloche, Argentina. Graduated as a chemical engineer in 2004, she obtained in 2011 a PhD in engineering both at the National University of La Plata, Argentina. Her area of expertise is the numerical simulation using the finite element technique of the energy transfer equation in complex, heterogeneous, and irregular domains, considering temperature-dependent thermophysical properties, including phase change transition. Over 20 years of experience in research, development, and innovation, she specialized in numerical simulation of thermal processes, finite element method, and valorization of agro-industrial byproducts. Recipient of the Senior Moulton Medal, London 2021, for the most meritorious chemical engineering paper of the year, also recognized by the Argentine Senate. Author of 34 indexed articles, 4 book chapters, and more than 100 conference papers. Holds 2 pending patents and 3 intellectual property registration for finite element method simulation software. Director of funded projects in CONICET and FONSIT on mathematical modeling, brewing byproducts, and cryopreservation. Supervisor of multiple doctoral and postdoctoral researchers. She has teaching experience at national universities in Argentina across undergraduate and postgraduate levels. Okay, I invite the Chinese Academy of Engineering to present the speakers, please.
Today we have 2 speakers. One is Professor Zhu Jinlin. He received his bachelor and master degree from the Jiangnan University and a PhD degree from Zhejiang University. And from 2017 to 2020, he works as a postdoctoral researcher at Hong Kong University of Science and Technology and Nanyang Technological University in Singapore. In 2020, he returned to Jiangnan University to join its faculty. His research primarily focused on food computing for nutrition and health, where he applied artificial intelligence theories and methods to address dietary needs and guide microbes across diverse populations. By integrating big data and machine learning, he aimed to develop personalized dietary strategies. To date, he has published over 14 research papers in high-impact journals, including Microbes, Briefing in Bioinformatics, and Trends in Food Science and Technology. And today we have another speaker, Dr. Zhang Nana, is Associate Professor of our school. Her primary research focuses on fundamental theories and applications of 3D food printing and microwave food processing. He has published many ICI index papers as first cooperating authors in a journal like the Food Chemistry, Journal of Food Engineering and Training, Food Science and Technology, and so on. Recognized for her academic excellence, she has selected at the Jiangsu Province Double Innovation Doctor Program. Additionally, she serves as a young editorial board member of the Journal of Future Foods and Food Research and Development. Thank you.
Thank you. We will begin with the first presentation from Argentina by Dr. Analia Coletti. Please, Margarita, the first video.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Analia Colietti. I am a researcher at the Food Technology Institute of the National Institute of Agricultural Technology in Argentina. I would like to begin by expressing my sincere gratitude to the National Academy of Engineering and to Noemi Zariski for this kind of invitation to participate in this valuable meeting, which seeks to identify areas of common interest between our two countries and strengthen bilateral ties. So today I would like to share with you a line of research that sits at the intersection of two worlds that are increasingly converging: post-harvest food science and artificial intelligence. So the title of this presentation is Smart Post-Harvest: Artificial Intelligence Tools for Fresh Produce Quality and Shelf Life Prediction. We are living through what many call the Fourth Industrial Revolution, and since the turn of the 21st century, this transformation has been redefining manufacturing as we know it. Industry 4.0 is built on digital interconnectivity and the capacity to generate, transmit, and analyze massive volumes of data in real time, enable what we now call smart and flexible factories. It encompasses an ecosystem of enabled technologies: additive manufacturing or 3D printing, horizontal and vertical integration systems, cybersecurity, augmented reality, cloud computing, autonomous and collaborative robots, the industrial Internet of Things, big data analytics, and process simulation through digital twins. Today, the fifth and sixth industrial revolution are taking this transformation a step further, moving beyond automation towards a deeper integration of artificial intelligence and human-robot collaboration, with a focus on sustainability, worker well-being, and the augmentation of human creativity rather than its replacement. At the heart of this shift is artificial intelligence, a concept that is not entirely new, but one that has experienced an unprecedented boom driven by three converging forces: exponential growth in computing power, open source algorithms, and access to vast volumes of digital data. The result is a technology that is now reshaping every productive sector and whose contribution to global economic growth is estimated at 14% by 2030. Within artificial intelligence, two branches are especially relevant to what I present today: machine learning and deep learning. Machine learning refers to algorithms that learn patterns from data without being explicitly programmed for each scenario. Deep learning is a subset of machine learning that uses artificial neural networks with multiple processing layers, and it has been proven particularly powerful when the input is image data. In the food industry, we are already seeing concrete application of both: early detection of foodborne hazards, smart visual inspection on processing lines, supply chain traceability, predictive food safety analytics, and process automation. But I want to emphasize something important. Artificial intelligence is not a replacement for exciting food safety systems. It is a tool that amplifies them, making them faster, more consistent, and capable of detecting patterns that could be invisible to the human eye alone. So, the question is, what is changing in the agri-food sector? The agri-food chain faces a set of well-known structural challenges. Beyond the adoption of sustainability practices and precision agriculture, digital technologies are now playing a key role across the entire production cycle, from yield estimation, phenology prediction, and early detection of water stress, to disease diagnosis in the file. On the post-harvest and commercial side, they are enable automated quality classification, improved traceability, and more consistent operational decision-making in contexts where information has historically been fragmented and heterogeneous. But it is important to be precise. AI in agri-food is not a single technology. It encompasses machine learning applied to physicochemical and sensory data, computer vision through convolutional neural networks, and digital twins that couple predictive models with real-time sensor data. The challenge, and equally the opportunity, lies in knowing which tool is appropriate for which problem. And this is not without complexity. 3 structural barriers still limit broader adoption. The first is the representation, meaning the availability of diverse, representative datasets that reflect real production conditions. The second is the infrastructure, the computational and connectivity resources required to deploy this system at scale, and the governance. So the regulatory, ethical, and institutional frameworks needs to ensure that AI-driven decisions in food systems are transparent, accountable, and equitable. Within this context in mind, I would like to present 3 studies that our research group has been actively developing, each one addressing a different scale of the problem, from classical machine learning to deep learning and physics-based simulation. Let me now move to our first case study. The objective here was to investigate the use of machine learning algorithms for quality control in apple production based on instrumentally determined physicochemical parameters and sensory parameters aided by a trained panel, developing a model capable of classifying apples as defective or non-defective and predicting their final quality against commercial standards. The dataset included 4,000 apples from an American agriculture company, characterized by both physicochemical variables, weight, acidity, and firmness, and sensory variables like sweetness, crispness, and juiciness. The target variable was binary, 0 for non-defective apples and 1 for defective apples. Logistic regression and neural network models with different configuration were selected. For the modeling workflow, we used Python with different libraries. The data was split into 75% for training and 25% for testing. Before modeling, we performed a full exploratory analysis, including data distribution and a correlation matrix to quantify the intensity and direction of relationships between each predictor variable and the target. We tested 4 neural network configurations, varying the number of hidden layers, 1 or 2, the number of neurons per layer, 2 or 4, and the optimizer comparing stochastic gradient descent and ADAM or adaptive estimation of moments. All configurations were trained over 600 epochs, and finally, using the model training to achieve the maximum efficiency, the quality of the apples were predicted based on new samples. Exploratory data analysis revealed that independent variables follow a normal distribution and confirmed an adequate balance between the 2 target categories, non-defective apples and defective apples. Importantly, non-defective apples tend to score higher on sensory variables such as sweetness and juiciness, which is consistent with consumer expectations and make these variables meaningful predictors. In terms of the correlation analysis, Weight, acidity, and crispness were excluded from the next iterations as they showed no correlation with quality, while juiciness, sweetness, size, and firmness emerging as strong predictors of fruit quality. Moving to model performance, logistic regression achieved an accuracy of 71%, while the best neural network configuration reached 86% accuracy, a meaningful improvement that demonstrates the clear advantage of nonlinear modeling for this classification task. Based on the confusion matrix and cross-validation results, configuration 3 based one hidden layer with 4 neurons was selected as the optimal architecture, and it presented the lowest error rate, the shortest processing time, and the best overall performance in both the loss function and accuracy. So with this optimized neural network in hand, we move to the prediction phase, applying the model to a held-out sample of 15 apples with no quality labels. The network achieved 18% accuracy in predicting quality deficiency on this unseen data. Only 2 type 1 errors and 1 type 2 error have been identified. The takeaway from this first case study is clear. Machine learning applied to physicochemical and sensory data can deliver reliable and interpretable quality classification for commercial apple production, and it can do so at a scale that human inspection simply cannot match. Now let me turn to our second case study. Banana is a climacteric fruit with high post-harvest perishability driven by enzymatic browning catalyzed by polyphenol oxidase. So the objective was to develop deep learning models, specifically convolutional neural networks, to classify and predict banana quality, ensure compliance with quality standards. A published dataset was used consisting of 2,203 banana images at HD resolution. Bananas were labeled into 3 classes at consumer maturity. Class A, based on uniform color, appearance, and firmness, this is the optimal commercial quality. Class B, yellow with small imperfections, light brown spots, and slightly reduced in firmness compared to Class A. And defect, this is the significant discoloration with multiple large brown spots and firmness unacceptable for consumption. The data was split into training 70%, validation 15%, and test 15%. For the classical machine learning models, we converted the RGB image into numerical data in the hue, saturation, and value color space. 5 classical models were trained and compared: logistical regression, random forest, naive Bayes, support vector machine, and k-nearest neighbors. For deep learning, we trained an efficient NetV3 convolutional neural network with transfer linear, a Google AI architecture pre-trained for image classification and computer vision tasks, implemented in Python. Among classical models, support vector machine obtained the highest score, followed by logistic regression, random forest, k-nearest neighbors, and naive Bayes. The relatively strong performance of the classical model is explained by the efficiency of chromatic histograms in capturing the chromatic changes associated with fruit deterioration. The convolutional neural networks overcome all classical models, achieving a score of 0.95 with early stopping applied at epoch 29, which prevented overfitting. With this top-performing convolutional neural network, we then moved to the testing phase to evaluate prediction performance, obtaining per class accuracies of 99% for class A, 84% for class B, and 100% for the defect class. The lower precision observed for class B is entirely consistent with its nature as an intermediate deterioration state. Its visual characteristics overlap with both class A and the defect class, which makes it inherently harder to separate. It reflects so the biological reality of progressive enzymatic pruning. Finally, in the third study, we developed a digital twin system that integrates the convolutional neural network for image-based quality classification with a kinetic model of enzymatic pruning for shelf-life prediction under retail storage conditions. Using the same dataset, the neural network was redesigned with a dual output head. The first output performs quality classification, class A, B, or defect, while the second produces a continuous pruning score or B score ranging from 0, meaning no pruning, to 1, meaning maximum pruning. To simulate the enzymatic kinetic of polyphenol oxidas, the model responsible for pruning in bananas, we applied the Michaelis-Menten kinetic model, assuming free contact between enzyme and substrate, coupled with the reunió equation, which captures the temperature dependence of the reaction rate. Together, these two equations allow the model to simulate pruning dynamics over time as a function of temperature, starting from the B-score predicted by the neural network for each individual fruit. The retail conditions assessed were 15, 20, and 30 degrees Celsius at 67% relative humidity for all cases. The convolutional neural network achieved an accuracy of 95% with a mean absolute error of just 0.033 on the B-score, meaning the model's continued pruning predictors were highly accurate. Using a B-score of 0.5 as the threshold for acceptable pruning, the digital twin revealed a clear pattern. Class A banana stayed with acceptable quality for about 7 days at 15 degrees, under 5 days at 20 degrees, and less than 2 days at 30 degrees. Class B bananas told a very different story. Shelf life dropped sharply to just 2 days at 15 degrees, around 1 day at 20 degrees, and at 30 degrees less than a half a day before quality became unacceptable. And the defect class never had a shelf life window at all. These bananas were already beyond the acceptable threshold from day 0 at every temperature, confirming they must be redirected to industrial processing rather than reaching retail display. So the practical implications of this framework are significant. It enables real-time, individualized shelf life prediction at the point of sale, inventory rotation support, identifying which units need to move first, waste reduction, and quality management across the supply chain from distribution center to retail. So the conclusions of this project are the following. Neural networks are effective AI tools for classifying and predicting fruit quality in industrial settings with great potential for automatic inspection and sorting. The application of machine learning and deep learning in the fruit and vegetable sector make it possible to standardize attributes, reduce human error, minimize post-harvest losses, and optimize the value chain. And the last, this training in this technology will be key to their effective adoption and to strengthening the efficiency, sustainability, and competitiveness of the fruit and vegetable sector. These tools are not theoretical. They are implementable with citing hardware, open source libraries, and available datasets. The challenge ahead is moving from proof of concept to file deployment, integrating these models into sorting lines, retail management systems, and supply chain decision-making tools. So I would like to thank all the institutions to make this project possible, and I thank all of you for your attention. I am happy to take any question you may have, and thank you very much.
Okay, we are continuing with the first presentation from the Chinese Academy of Engineering, precise dietary intervention targeting the intestinal microbiota by Jinlin Su.
Good evening, dear colleagues and professors. This is Jinlin Zhu from Jiangnan University. Thank you very much for the kind invitation and for giving me this chance to share our recent work. Today, I will introduce some of our latest progress on a topic that I believe is both timely and critically important, which is precise dietary interventions targeting the intestinal microbiota. So, as we all know, the world today is confronting a growing crisis of imbalanced nutritional structures. With rapid urbanization, changing lifestyles, and the widespread availability of highly processed foods, an increasing number of people are suffering from various diet-related health conditions, including obesity, type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular diseases, and even certain types of cancer. These chronic disorders not only reduce quality of life, but also place enormous burden on healthcare systems worldwide. Over the past decades, a large body of evidence has made it increasingly clear that a well-balanced, scientifically grounded diet is not only a matter of personal choice, but also it is a fundamental pillar for maintaining health, preventing diseases, and promoting longevity. This naturally raises a critical question. How can we formulate a reasonable and effective dietary approach for each individual? At present, national dietary guidelines, such as the dietary guidelines for our Chinese residents, can serve as the primary principle for most people, and they certainly provide a valuable framework for our daily life. However, we must recognize that there are substantial individual differences in nutritional needs, which range from a multitude of factors, including geographic region, age, gender, metabolic status, lifestyle habits, and even cultural food preferences. So, a one-size-fits-for-all guideline, no matter how well designed, cannot adequately address this vast diversity, particularly when we consider the unique genetic backgrounds, metabolic profiles, and most importantly, the highly variable composition and function of the gut microbiota across different individuals. The gut microbiota, as many of you may be aware, are intimately linked to our human health and disease. So they constitute a complex ecosystem comprising hundreds of trillions of microorganisms, encompassing over 1,000 different species. Remarkably, the collective genes encoded by these microbes outnumber our own human genes by nearly 100-fold, effectively endowing us with a second genome that profoundly influences our physiology. This immense microbial economy has been associated with more than 90% of human health issues, affecting a wide range of systems, including the immune system, the nervous system, the gastrointestinal tract, and even those cardiovascular system. So given this pervasive influence, a growing wave of research today has increasingly focused on leveraging the gut microbiota not only to predict health outcomes, but also to serve as a modifiable target for therapeutic and preventive interventions. So among the many factors that can shape and modulate the gut microbiota, our daily diet stands out as the most significant contributor. What we eat not only supplies essential macronutrients and micronutrients to our whole body, but also provides substrates such as dietary fibers, resistant starches that nourish the gut microbiota. In turn, the gut microbiota produces a vast array of bioactive metabolites, including short-chain fatty acids, bile acid derivatives, tryptophan metabolites, and many others, which can exert profound systemic effects on our metabolism, immunity, and even brain function. According to a recent report, dietary nutrition accounts for almost 13% of all factors influencing our health, almost on par with the impact of genetic background and significantly higher than that of medical interventions. Therefore, identifying key intervention targets with the microbiome has become an increasingly urgent and scientifically rewarding endeavor, with far-reaching implications for achieving nutritional balance, enhancing overall health, and even treating complex diseases. For instance, targeted treatments with specific beneficial bacteria have been shown to effectively manage recurrent Clostridium difficile infections and inhibit growth of cancer cells. In view of food interventions, Gordon's team has made significant contributions to microbiota-directed foods, or MDFs, which aimed at improving childhood malnutrition. Their research revealed a strong association between malnutrition and the gut microbiota, allowing them to identify key species as targets for dietary intervention. By designing specific dietary formulations with clinical trials, they were able to demonstrate that rationally designed MDFs can restore beneficial microbial species against malnutrition and promote bone growth and immune function. Therefore, the design of MDFs presents a promising strategy for combating childhood malnutrition. So it is now evident that the concept of MDFs offers a broad and versatile approach to enhancing health, extending well beyond the context of childhood malnutrition. Recognizing this potential, so our team, the Special Food and Nutritional Health team at Jiangnan University, has devoted substantial efforts to advance the development of MDFs for promoting overall health and well-being across different life stages and health conditions. Over the years, we have made several significant breakthroughs that I'm excited to share with you today. Our team has over 30 years of experience in microbiome research. Throughout these years, we have built a comprehensive suite of databases, including a microbial resource center, microbiome disease database, and a diet microbiota interaction database. These resources form at the foundation of our innovative research and development in this field. Building upon this solid base, we also developed a powerful data mining platform based on artificial intelligence, and this platform leverages advanced algorithms and analytical tools to extract meaningful insights from the data, providing valuable information that supports decision-making processes and derives targeted discovery of the gut microbiota intervention based on AI. So let me walk you through each of our three core databases in more detail. For our first resource, the microbial distribution database, we have systematically analyzed the gut microbiota composition and distribution patterns among the Chinese population, with a particular focus on the key influencing factors such as age, geography, and dietary habits. We paid special attention to the specific distribution patterns of the bifidobacterium, which is a well-recognized beneficial probiotic genus that is known to decline with age and vary with dietary fiber intake. Through this comprehensive analysis, we aim to provide essential theoretical guidelines for the rationale and the regional specific development of dietary intervention strategies that are tailored to the Chinese population. For our second database, the Microbiota Disease Association database, we have developed a rationale health index that can effectively and quantitatively assess an individual's overall health level based on their gut microbial profile. So this index demonstrates robust performance in health monitoring, showing high sensitivity and specificity in distinguishing healthy from sub-healthy individuals. Using this health index, we conducted in-depth health pattern mining and successfully identified 4 distinct health patterns among healthy individuals. So this approach differs fundamentally from the traditional enterotype-based classifications because our focus is not merely on clustering by dominant genera, but rather elucidating on the functional rules and ecological patterns of the gut microbiota in relation to health outcomes. Furthermore, for health individuals which classified as non-healthy, we also developed a personalized health contribution analysis that can pinpoint the specific microbial species that are positively or negatively contributing to their own health status. By leveraging this extensive database, we also uncovered unexpected correlations between those similar diseases, such as metabolic disorders and immune-related conditions. An interesting thing we can find here is that Some microbial species were found to play significant roles across multiple diseases, suggesting shared microbiota-mediated mechanisms that could be targeted by common dietary strategies. So once an individual's specific microbial targets have been identified, we turn to our third database, the Diet Microbiota Disease Interaction Database, to generate personalized dietary recommendations. This database was evaluated using a deep learning algorithm specifically designed for the food recommendation tasks, which takes into account both the individual's microbial composition and their disease risk profile. The prediction performance, as measured by accuracy and robustness, was found to be both strong and reliable across multiple validation cohorts. More importantly, our method is not limited to confirming known dietary associations. It can also identify effective yet previously unreported food items or combinations that may help alleviate specific diseases. So, for validation of our approach, we conducted animal experiments on ulcerative colitis, which is a chronic inflammatory condition of the gut. The results were highly encouraging, demonstrating that our recommendation diets could significantly reduce inflammatory markers and promote microbial recovery. Therefore, we can confidently state that the rational design of microbiota-directed foods is not only theoretically sound, but also practically achievable. And we are now able to effectively modulate overall health by tailoring dietary interventions to individual level microbiota profiles. In conclusion, the growing and deepening understanding of the gut microbiome pivotal role in our human health has paved the way for innovative data-driven strategies that go far beyond traditional one-size-fits-all nutrition. And as our research progresses, we offered a new paradigm for achieving balanced nutrition and also improve our overall health. So that's all for my talk. Thank you very much. I also attach with my email box here in these slides, and I also look forward to your questions and comments. Good evening.
Okay. We are continue with the expositions. Now we have the participation of Dr. Maria Victoria Santos. The talk is about numerical simulation of heat transfer in food processing using the finite element method from equations to industrial applications. Please, Margarita, the second video.
Good morning to everybody. First of all, I want to thank Dr. Noemi Saritsky for inviting me to present this work in the context of the joint webinar between the Chinese Academy of Engineering and the Argentinian Academy of Engineering. The work I'm going to present is numerical simulations of heat transfer in food processing using the finite element method, from equations to industrial applications. Next, I'm going to give the presentation overview. First, we're going to talk about the numerical simulation and what's its relevance. Next, I'm going to talk about the heat transfer equation, how to establish the equations that describe the process, and the finite element method, how to apply it. Number 3, the mathematical complexity associated to each food processing that we are going to apply. Number 4, the thermophysical properties, how they intervene in the equations, how to measure and model them. Number 5, the challenge of the phase change problem. 2 strategies in order to circumvent the lack of convergence. And number 6, the actual food applications in the industry and the extension into a bioengineering discipline with agroindustrial applications. Here we present section 1, the relevance of numerical simulations. The value of mathematical models in food engineering. We all know that analytical solutions have several limitations. They are only valid for regular geometries, and we all know that foodstuff cannot always be assimilated as a perfect sphere, cylinder, or slab. They assume constant thermophysical properties, they cannot handle heterogeneous materials, they cannot simulate or model phase change problems, and we often cannot couple specific subroutines such as microbial lethality, inactivation, kinetics of enzymes, etc. Numerical models, on the other hand, have the advantage of handling any irregular 2D or 3D geometry. They can have temperature-dependent properties incorporated. We can model as heterogeneous domains. We can simulate phase change problems, and we can couple any specific subroutine. Overall, they reduce experimental cost and pilot scale trials, which is very important. Therefore, finite element programs in MATLAB and/or COMSOL allow a full flexibility when trying to numerically simulate industrial processes. Here we present section 2, the heat transfer equation. Here we present the heat conduction equation. As you can see, there are thermophysical properties involved in this equation, such as the density, the specific heat, and the thermal conductivity. Then we have the initial condition, which is usually uniform at time equals 0 in the entire domain. Then we have the convective boundary condition, where the H is involved. This H is called the surface heat transfer coefficient, and it's a very important parameter because it describes the fluid dynamic behavior at the interface of the foodstuff. If applicable, there is a symmetry axis also involved, such as this is the case for the geometry here presented, which describes a sausage that is being pre-cooked, which is what we are going to numerically simulate. Next. The finite element method is a numerical technique that can be difficult to explain, and I don't want to bore everybody, so I'm going to summarize it into this slide. First, we have to state which is the domain or the food geometry that we are going to numerically simulate in order to obtain digital photographs or CAD images that can be imported into the software, where it can be discretized into triangular or tetrahedral finite elements. Next, the variational formulation. When we have partial differential equations, that is called a strong formulation, and we have to use an equivalent, which is the weak formulation or the variational formulation, where we use a test function and integrate these equations in the entire domain. In order to introduce the boundary conditions, we use the divergence theorem. Next, the Galerkin. The temperature is approximated using shape functions, and we assemble all these approximations of each finite element into global matrices, which are called the capacitance matrix, the conductance matrix, and the global force vector. Finally, we have a semi-discrete system of ordinary differential equations that we can solve in MATLAB or the suite if we have our own program, or we can use directly the software COMSOL multiphysics, which is very useful. Here we have section 3, mathematical complexity spectrum. Here I present the level of complexity of the mathematical problem that describes the food process studied. On the left hand, we have chilling, cooling, heating, and cooking, which is a mildly nonlinear problem, since the thermophysical properties remain pretty much constant above 0 degrees Celsius. There is a challenge when encountering a heterogeneous domain or 3D irregularly shaped objects. Some examples are empanadas, black sausages, and Brussels sprouts when we're trying to couple, for example, inactivation kinetics of enzymes. On the right-hand side, we have freezing and thawing, which are phase change problem, and this constitutes a highly nonlinear mathematical problem. Since the properties are strongly temperature dependent and they are involved in the heat transfer equation, the challenge is the abrupt Cp peak around the latent heat release temperature range. We have two different strategies in order to circumvent the divergence of the numerical models. Some examples in the industry that we have studied are freezing of croissants, mushrooms, crabs, and Brussels sprouts. Section 4, Thermophysical Properties. Here I present the key thermophysical properties involved in the heat transfer equation. The specific heat, which on the right you can see the figure, shows a sharp quasi-delta Dirac peak near Tf, which is the phase change temperature. This is due to the release of the latent heat during the ice formation. On the right, you can see the figure of the equipment that is used to measure this Cp, and it's called a differential scanning calorimeter. Cp can also be estimated in food by using Choi and Oko's equation by knowing the proximate composition of the foodstuff. The thermal conductivity also shows a sharp change when the water is turned into ice, since the thermal conductivity of both materials are very different. The density and thermal conductivity both can be estimated using equations based on proximate composition. Here is section 5, the phase change challenge. When we're trying to numerically simulate a freezing problem, we have a sharp peak near Tf of the apparent specific heat. This causes numerical oscillation and the standard finite element diverges. There are two roads to convergence. We have to use an enthalpy Kirchhoff reformulation, or we have to use a Heaviside and Gaussian function which transforms the Cp into a smoother and physically accurate curve. Here we have section 6 with the applications in food systems. The first system that I am going to present is black sausage. This is because 76.6% of black sausages obtained in the city of La Plata in Buenos Aires tested positive for E. coli, and 3.3% contained the E. coli O157H7, which causes the hemolytic uremic syndrome. The Argentine Food Code does not establish any specifications in terms of time temperature to which these black sausages have to be submitted in order for them to be safe for consumption. And since they are usually consumed without subsequent heat treatment, there is a high risk for the consumers due to the presence of these pathogens. Here we present the geometry which can be assimilated as a bidimensional axial symmetric problem and the microscopic balances that are associated to the problem. In the boundary condition, we have to highlight the presence of these Tx, which is the external temperature of the water to which these sausages are submitted at the pre-cooking stage. And we will talk in depth in the future slides about this variable. Here we present the processing of black sausage, specifically the pre-cooking stage. We detected a critical problem, which is the decrease of the external water temperature in the cooking vessel once the black sausages are introduced. The water used to pre-cook these sausages is between 70 to 95 degrees Celsius. But the black sausages have an initial temperature of about 10 to 15 degrees Celsius. Therefore, when we begin the process and the sausages are introduced, the water temperature in the cooking vessel decreases. We can calculate how much it decreases and how much it lasts until it recuperates and begins to have the same temperature as the initial time using macroscopic balances. We have to take into account the heat flow from the burner to the product, to the water, and loss to the environment due to evaporation or from the surface, external surface of the vessel. So here we can couple macroscopic balances with microscopic balance and introduce a variable Tx as the process progresses. Additionally, we are going to couple the microbial lethality to achieve the target sterilization value. You can see here the equation where we can calculate the logarithmic cycles reduced during the process. In this equation, the temperature at the coldest point of the sausage is introduced as a function of time. Also, the dref and z are lethality parameters relevant and were determined for E. coli O15787 in black sausages in previous literature publications. We set the target value of 12 log at the coldest point because the black sausages are often eaten cold or warm and they are highly hazardous for consumption. Also, pediatricians used to recommend these products for children. It is important to note that as few as 10 microorganisms of E. coli O15787 are enough to cause illness and maybe cause the hemolytic uremic syndrome. Here we present the validation of the numerical model. We validate this numerical model by contrasting experimental measurements with predicted values using the finite element method. The dashed line corresponds to numerical predictions, and we can see that they are very close to the experimental values measured. The temperature versus time was registered using thermocouples type T and a data logger. The H was estimated and used in the model. The H value was 1,615 watt over meter square degrees Celsius. Thermophysical properties were used from literature and considered constant in the numerical model. Here we present the drop in water bath temperature considering A, natural, and B, forced convection conditions. We present the predicted and the experimental water temperature. In both cases, the volume of water used was 10 liters. The mass of sausages was different and the initial temperature of the water was different. In the case A, there was natural convection, which gave an H value of 828 watt over meter square degrees Celsius, and the other, forced convection, was over 1,000. This is an important aspect because it demonstrates that the water temperature does not maintain a fixed value. It decreases, and this affects the degree of heat flux given to the food product and the degree of inactivation that we have to calculate in order to have a product that reaches a 12 log reduction and is safe for consumption. By coupling the microscopic with the macroscopic balances, along with the lethality, microbial lethality equation, we were able to construct a response surface with the minimum processing time to achieve a 12 log reduction of the microbial population as a function of the initial water temperature and load ratios for an initial sausage temperature, an initial microbial count, and a specific heat transfer coefficient, which in this case was for natural convection. So here we have the equation, which is a polynomial equation, and in table 1 we can see the effect of different load ratio on the required processing time in order to have a safe product for consumption. The next example of numerical simulation applied to food engineering will be for pre-cooked frozen Brussels sprouts. In this example, we are going to evaluate the pre-cooking and cooling stage, and we're going to couple the peroxidase inactivation kinetics. And then we are going to numerically simulate the freezing stage. A quick overview of the process is the sprouts are harvested and then immersed in a hot water bath for their thermal treatment that inactivates spoilage enzymes such as peroxidase. Then they are rapidly cooled in an ice water bath to avoid overcooking. And afterwards they enter the tunnel freezer to their final destination in cold storage at minus 20 degrees Celsius. The enzyme peroxidase was selected because it's a key quality indicator of the process. It is responsible for off flavors, browning, and nutrient loss in frozen Brussels sprouts. Its thermal inactivation kinetics was coupled to the heat transfer model, and we were able to determine the residual enzyme activity during the pre-cooking stage and identify which is the pre-cooking time that minimizes the pod reactivation during the frozen storage, while preserving the nutrients such as ascorbic acid, which is the vitamin C. When we have an underprocessed Brussels sprout, we have insufficient heat treatment during the pre-cooking stage that can reactivate pod during frozen storage, and that causes a browning in the interior tissues. When we have over-blanched or overcooked the Brussels sprouts, we have nutrient loss and undesirable texture changes, along with unnecessary energy consumption. So we have to find the sweet spot, which is the optimal condition that requires the knowledge of the temperature versus time history during processing and the coupling of the enzyme inactivation kinetics. In order to numerically simulate, we need to establish the geometry of the Brussels sprouts. As you can see by digital images, the Brussels sprouts can be assimilated as a bidimensional axial symmetric problem. And here you can see the different meshes of the bidimensional domain. Adding to the complexity of coupling subroutines to numerical programs, here we have that the pod enzyme presents isoenzymes with biphasic behavior. That means that we have a heat-labile and resistant fraction. In previous works, we have determined the activation energy and kinetic constant as well as initial fractions of these isoenzymes. This data is then used to calculate, by using the equations in the upper right hand of the slide, the concentration of the labile and resistant fraction of these isoenzymes. As you can see in these equations, we need to use as input the temperature versus time and position inside the foodstuff. We find this temperature profile in each point in the discretization of the mesh, and we calculate it using the numerical model. Afterwards, we can use it. The other equations in the lower left part of the slide, you can see that we can integrate it at each position or in the entire domain volume of the domain of the Brussels sprouts in order to find the overall average enzyme activity. So here we use the mathematical equations and the output of the numerical model to calculate the enzyme activity versus time in the entire vegetable domain. The validation of the numerical model was done by actual temperature measurements at different points inside the Brussels sprouts. In figure A, you can see the two stages, the part where there's heating and the cooling of the Brussels sprouts at the center point inside the domain. Obviously, it's not immediately that the temperature falls when we pass to the cooling stage at the interior. In figure B, we have the average temperature and the total enzyme activity, which was calculated using this average temperature at the center of the Brussels sprout. To the right and the lower part of the slide, you can see the temperature distribution obtained by numerical modeling, and how useful it is to see that after 10 minutes at the interior there is still inactivation of enzymes, although we are at the part where there's a cooling in a water ice bath. The freezing process was numerically simulated by using a change of variables into a volumetric enthalpy and the Kirchhoff function. These two relationships were used to reformulate the partial differential equation with temperature into enthalpy and Kirchhoff variables. Also, the initial conditions and boundary conditions were changed accordingly. In figures A, B, and C, you can see the relationships obtained with the change of variables, and in the right-hand side, you can see the validation of the freezing process, how the numerical predictions adjust perfect with the experimental measurements of freezing process, and also during the frozen storage after 4 months at minus 20 degrees, we were able to detect which was the optimal condition. In this case, and for these Brussels sprouts, at 6 minutes we had no pod reactivations, high retention of ascorbic acid, and adequate pre-cooking times. Here I present other examples of freezing simulations where I used the Kirchhoff and enthalpy functions, but in this case I used irregularly shaped 3D objects, which were in this case sliced mushrooms that were put in a tunnel freezer, and also croissants. Here I faced another challenge, which was using freezing in food with heterogeneous structure. That means we have heat resistances in series, and this is the case for empanadas, which have an interior meat and an exterior dough, and crab claws, which have meat and the exterior is a calcareous shell. Here we have enthalpy and Kirchhoff functions that fail at the interface because we have duplicate values where the meat and the calcareous shell are in intimate contact. We cannot have from a mathematical standpoint, there is incompatible to have two values of enthalpy at the same position. The strategy when encountering an heterogeneous foodstuff and a freezing process is to build a CP, or apparent specific heat function, by combining two built-in functions in MATLAB and in the console environment, which is the Heaviside step function and the Gaussian equation. This allows a smoother behavior in the phase change temperature range. And here the Heaviside step function has second-order derivatives that are continuous, and this allows the program to achieve conversions in spite of the abrupt shape or variation of the CP. This is what was applied in order to numerically simulate the freezing process in a tunnel freezer in Puerto Madryn for Patagonian crab's claws. And here we have how the domain and the geometry was obtained and the numerical simulation, which was also validated. Fortunately, the numerical simulations and the strategies used to gain conversions for freezing process were very useful in bioengineering, specifically in application in the agro industry. The area was cryopreservation of animal reproductive cells such as trout and bovine semen, also in oocytes, which are more difficult cells, and the cryopreservation of strategic and recalcitrant microorganisms relevant to the brewing industry. The cryopreservation protocol depends on the cell type. Each cell type, such as tissue, seeds, oocytes, or sperm cells, require a specific cooling and warming process to achieve maximum viability post-thaw. On the one hand, we have slow cooling methods where there is ice formation, therefore there is an equilibrium between water and ice. This is usually applied to sperm cells, microorganisms, and plant seeds. Then we have another process, which is vitrification, which uses ultra-rapid cooling with a non-equilibrium throughout the process. This is usually applied to oocytes, embryos, or recalcitrant systems. For example, oocytes versus sperm have in a ratio area over volume much smaller. They are bigger cells and very difficult to cryopreserve. That is why we have to use non-equilibrium or vitrification processes. I will go rapidly over the vitrification protocols. This process is very important in cryobiology because the natural state of living water inside living things is disordered. Therefore, cryopreservation by vitrification maintains this natural disorder. When a supercooled solution is cooled very quickly at high cooling speed, the viscosity may reach values so high that molecular rearrangements in the liquid become extremely slow, thus avoiding any ice formation. The glass transition temperature, TG, is a temperature where there is a reversible transition from an amorphous solid or glass into a rubbery state as the temperature increases. Below TG, the materials are rigid and brittle. The temperature measurement in cryo devices is often very difficult because we have very minimal volume and small size of the cryo devices. Therefore, in order to put a thermocouple, it's a great challenge. The observation of ice formation is also very difficult and requires cryostereoscopes. And we are prone to high experimental error because it is dependent on the user. That is why the performance of protocols and the selection of the cryo devices in cells is very important, and we can use the finite element method in order to simulate and predict temperature versus time during cooling or warming of these systems. What is the main problem when we warm vitrified samples? Two things can occur. Devitrification, which is the phenomenon where ice is formed during the warming stage, and recrystallization, which is the conversion of small ice crystals into larger ones. This is the case when we have vitrified cells that are immersed in liquid nitrogen, and we lift them from the liquid nitrogen and expose them to higher temperatures. That is why it's very important to study the warming rates. First, we started using dynamical simulations in order to predict cooling rates in cryo devices used in vitrification systems. The cryo devices selected to numerically simulate were OPS, Miniflex, Cryotop, and Cryoloop. By using the numerical model, we were able to determine the performance and which device had the highest cooling rate, which is correlated also with high viability afterwards. We also used the numerical modeling in order to simulate the warming of cryo devices. This is an important and critical step because when we are trying to retrieve from liquid nitrogen these cryo devices with these important cells, they can suffer ice crystallization during the warming because they are surpassing the glass transition temperature, and the formation of ice by means of recrystallization or devitrification can cause cell death. Therefore, the numerical program was able to determine with accurateness the maximum time needed in order to achieve or enter a devitrification phenomenon. Another important application in the agro industry where the numerical simulation of the freezing process was applied was in cryopreservation of bovine and trout semen. Usually, plastic French straws are used, and they are submitted to nitrogen vapors, which are above a certain level of liquid nitrogen in a styrofoam box. This allows the freezing of the semen to be used with certain cooling rates, and using the numerical program and calculating surface heat transfer coefficient, we were able to determine which height is the best in order to gain the highest viability post-thaw. So the numerical program used as input the thermal-physical properties of the plastic and the semen plus extender. So it is a phase change problem where all that we have learned was applied to the cryopreservation of these biological samples. Another important application where we use the numerical modeling of the freezing process with phase change transition was in order to optimize the cryopreservation protocols of Saccharomyces eubayanus using this heat transfer modeling. We had to use these because these were recalcitrant brewing yeast that after many years they were impossible to retrieve and they had very low viability. Therefore, we studied how they were frozen in an ultra freezer which is set at minus 80 degrees in order to see what the obstacles were and how it can be optimized. The results were recently published also, and we were able to improve the cryopreservation protocols applied. In conclusion, the finite element method provides a powerful, flexible framework to simulate heat transfer in food and biological systems which are relevant to the food and agro-industrial sector. Numerical models reduce experimental cost, enable process optimization, and provide practical tools for food processors. I want to thank everybody for listening to this presentation. And I want to thank especially the institutions of my country that allowed me to study and obtain my PhD and be a researcher. I want to thank also the Academy of Engineering of both countries, China and Argentina, and a very warm thank you to all my colleagues and friends for the team effort to develop the works presented in this webinar.
Okay, we are continuing with the last presentation of this fifth webinar. The title is Development and Innovation for Three-Dimensional Printing Technology for Engineered Food by Dr. Nana Zhang.
Hello everyone, I'm Nana Zhang from Jiangnan University. It is my great honor to have this opportunity to share some of our team's work on 3D food printing. Today, my topic is development and innovation of 3D printing technologies for engineered foods. Firstly, regarding the background, why does food need 3D printing? China's food industry is undergoing a strategic transformation from traditional large-scale supply to personalized nutrition and flexible manufacturing. With its unique strengths in personalized nutrition and health, food experience and structural innovation, sustainable and efficient resource utilization, etc. 3D food printing has become one of the key pathways driving this industrial transformation. However, compared with mainstream 3D printing technologies such as metal and plastic printing, 3D food printing lags far behind in terms of materials, technological maturity, and other aspects. with limitations in printing accuracy, printing speed, application scenarios, and more. Actually, these limitations do not stem from insufficient research investment, but from the intrinsic properties of food raw materials, the wide variety, the complex competition, and strict safety requirements of food materials have created a series of bottlenecks in printing inks, printing technologies, and printing equipment. To address these challenges, systematic and in-depth research is urgently needed in areas including raw material adaptability, printing process control, and intelligent equipment. Today, I will focus on our team's innovations in printing technologies, covering three main aspects. The first is the development of microwave-assisted instant current 3D food printing technology. This technology was developed to solve the problem of product deformation that commonly occurs during traditional printing or post-printing curing. We therefore leveraged the advantages of microwave heating to achieve stable foaming and instant curing printing products. Specifically, we first selected the optimal position for heat source output, the printing platform, which builds structures layer by layer, suffers from uneven heating. The material barrel is prone to overheating, and the narrow space inside the extrusion nozzle makes heating difficult to implement. In fact, when conductive heating is applied to the extrusion nozzle, it causes uneven temperature distribution inside the nozzle, and excessively high viscosity at the tube wall leads to clogging. Microwave heating, with its targeted delivery, high efficiency, and flexible controllability, is inherently suitable for heating materials inside the nozzle. We therefore designed a parallel twin-wire microwave heating mode inside the nozzle, which achieves a uniform laminar temperature distribution and enables smooth extrusion. On this basis, we regulated the microwave curing process according to raw material properties. Animal proteins have high nutritional value and favorable rheological and processing properties. But when printed directly, the resulting products have poor structural support and mechanical strength, are prone to deformation, and cannot form complex structures. Our solution is threefold. First, add salt to promote protein dissolution. Second, use T-gas to promote protein cross-linking. And finally, combine with efficient microwave heating to achieve instant foaming and curing. On the other hand, excessive protein dilution at high temperatures can also cause nozzle clogging. So we innovatively utilized the thermo-reversible property of thermosensitive colloids. They exist as a solution when heated and form a gel when cooled. To develop protein formulations suitable for high-temperature microwave 3D printing. The video here shows the printed products. The left one is the sample printed at 20 Celsius. We can see that it is soft and easily deformed, while the one printed at 80 Celsius has excellent deformation resistance. For plant proteins represented by soy protein and pea protein, there are globulins with compact native structures and weak intermolecular cross-linking, resulting in low slurry viscosity and storage modulus. Direct printing leads to structural collapse and failed forming. So we innovatively combined cysteine hydrochloride with high temperature heating to unfold and cross-link the protein molecules, and the resulting denatured soy protein slurry delivers outstanding printing performance. For non-gelling raw materials such as microalgae, their cell walls hinder cross-linking and result in poor adhere, making them unprintable on their own. We encapsulated microalgae with carrageenan and formed a gel network through cross-linking. This composite slurry exhibits excellent extrudability, instant forming, and curing performance in microwave 3D printing, enabling personalized shape customization and expanding the edible forms of microalgae. This slide compares the parameters of microwave 3D printing with other existing curing technologies. As can be seen, the curing speed of microwave 3D printing and the modulus of its cured products are comparable to those of digital light curing and UV direct light printing. Next is the second part, continuous multi-material switching technology for food systems. After achieving stable forming and instant curing, we moved toward precise forming and personalized control. Through 3D motion control and pneumatic extrusion, we developed a continuous switching printing system tailored for food materials. This technology and equipment enable personalized shape customization, specifically by establishing a patent printing information generation strategy and a G-code interpolation program. We can generate printing files with parameters including path, material switching, and variable speed according to the target model. Through path regulation, two-phase slurries can be deposited with high precision, forming voxel structures with a 2 mm unit size using a 1 mm extrusion nozzle. The images show various customized shapes printed with this system. Beyond appearance, eating quality is also a core attribute of food. drawing on metamaterial design theory, we proposed a strategy to tune the mechanical and textural properties of printed products via the spatial distribution of soft and hard gels. We first prepared the surimi gel and beef mince gel with a sufficient strength difference, then used voxel structures as a model system to verify the theory. The strain curves show that small unit voxel structures exhibit a hard gel-like stress mode, while large unit voxel structures show a soft gel-like stress mode. This confirms that the spatial arrangement of materials can regulate the textural properties of printed products. We used the simulation to investigate the underlying mechanism. It was found that the spatial distribution of the two-phase gels modulates the textural properties of printed products by altering deformation behavior and stress transmission. Based on this theory, we designed the sandwich and the spiral structures for personalized texture tuning. The sandwich structure shows a soft to hard stress mode, while the spiral structure significantly improves the recovery of printed products by storing elastic potential energy. While the last technology is high throughput bionic manufacturing. This technology aims to improve printing efficiency and manufacturing throughput, which is critical for advancing the engineering and commercialization of 3D food printing. Building on the continuous switching 3D printing system, we proposed a multi-channel parallel printing strategy and developed the high-throughput bionic manufacturing technology. First, we developed a multi-outlet parallel mode with a single inlet multi-outlet design. This mode requires no modification to the main equipment. Printing throughput can be increased simply by redesigning the nozzle. In this mode, flow channels must be strictly symmetric to ensure consistent extrusion speed across all outlets. With this design, we achieved simultaneous production of 4 products in a single printing run. We will break through the limitations of nozzle manufacturing, precision, and size. We further developed a multi-nozzle parallel high-throughput 3D printing mode. Unlike the former, this mode has smaller flow channels, more flexible adjustment, and supports simultaneous production of products with asymmetric structures and different colors. It can also print foods with complex textures, such as marbled steak, with very high precision. So here is also a video to show the multi-nozzle printing. Finally, I would like to share some thoughts about 3D food printing. Actually, to move 3D food printing from the laboratory to industrial applications, we needed the interdisciplinary integration of food science, mechanical engineering, or artificial intelligence. Collaborative breakthroughs in raw materials, technologies, and also equipments will drive 3D food printing toward higher efficiency and better quality. In closing, I would like to thank my team for their continuous support. Our team has long been engaged in research on food physical processing and food supply for special environments. We welcome our interested colleagues to visit us for exchange and guidance. Thanks.
Okay. We will now proceed to the question and answer session. Participants are kindly invited to ask the speaker questions.
Well, I want to ask first. Thank you very much for all the presentations. I want to ask to Nana Sang only a question. If you could explain how it works and how the microwave system is connected to the extruded head of the printer.
So how to decide the distance? Sorry, what do you mean?
Can you repeat, Analia, the question, please?
Okay. Well, I want to ask if you could explain how it works and how the microwave system is connected to the extruded head of the printer.
Actually, for our printing system, it's not only depend on the equipment, but also the software. Yes, what we need to do is, firstly, we have to ensure that our slurry can be printed, and then when printing, actually, it involves a series or complex settings of printing parameters to ensure the smooth extrude.
Okay.
I'm not sure if I answer your question, or we can communication by email after this meeting.
Yes, I think
yes, I can leave you my email address.
Yes, please in the chat.
Okay.
Thank you.
Is there any question? Another question? Okay. As I mentioned previously, this was our final webinar. These webinars have demonstrated the value of international cooperation. They have strengthened academic and professional relationships. As we conclude this successful series, we celebrate not only the knowledge shared during these 5 webinars, but also the partnerships that have been built through this year. We hope this initiative marks the beginning of many more joint activities between our 2 academies. I would like to sincerely thank to Professor Dr. Xie Junfei from Jiangnan University in China and to Ms. Margarita Mercado from the Argentinian Academy for their significant help and dedication to the project, and also to all the speakers for their insightful presentation and for sharing their expertise. All the contributions have added great value to the webinars, and we truly appreciate the time and effort that the speakers dedicated to preparing and presenting the results. We look forward to continuing this valuable collaboration in the future. With this, we finish our webinar today. I don't know if Dr. Xiaomei Liu want to express several words.
Yeah, it's my pleasure to attend this the webinar, and also it is the final webinar as I know the last one. So I think we have very successful the cooperation online to have the research communication, and we also look forward to our further cooperation even on the project and the academic project and the student exchange and the other things. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for your efforts.
Okay, thank you for your attention and bye-bye.
See you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.